Hello, friends. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I have a lovely special guest with us this afternoon, Makenzie Evangelisto. And today we are going to be talking about what it means to choose happiness, what it means to really follow your heart instead of maybe what society thinks or everyone thinks. So I'm really excited. And as always, before we dive in, let us together take 3 conscious breaths. And you're experts by now, right? So when you're ready, if you want, you can safely, if you can safely close your eyes, can close your eyes and inhale, filling belly, ribs, and chest. Exhale, sweet release, let it go. Chest, ribs, and belly. Inhale, filling belly, ribs, chest. Let it go on the exhalation. Exhale the old thoughts, stale air, anything that's blocking you from being fully present. And then one more time, nice deep inhalation, slow and smooth and steady. And on the exhalation, sweet release, feel the shoulders melting down away from the ears, feeling any tension or distraction leaving the body, allowing you to be present for this conversation. So I had the privilege of meeting Makenzie about almost a month ago, I guess, when we were on a hike in the woods, and she was my guide. And one of the things that I really appreciated about you and appreciate about you, Makenzie, is that you're real, that you operate from a place of deep intention, and that you're willing to do the things that make you uncomfortable in order to follow your heart. So I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with listeners today. And I'd love for you to get started by just telling us a little bit more about who you are and kind of what you're up to in the world.
Yeah. So first off, thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me. And as you said, it was honestly a pure joy to have you on that hike. We had some really nice conversations, some very real, honest, and raw conversations, which I appreciated about you as well. But a little bit about me and my history is I did the things that they tell you to do. I went to college, and then after college, I sought the job, and it was just like job after job after job after that. And I just got in this terrible rhythm of always looking for the next best thing.
Mm.
And so that eventually led me to where I am now, which is me pursuing my passions in nutrition. So I'm getting a master's in nutrition. I'm doing some part time guiding as a hiking guide. And I'm just seeing clients on the side right now. So that's where I'm at. I have a bachelor's in exercise science, but really my heart lies within the nutrition field. So that's what I went after.
Beautiful. So I feel like there's a lot of people, especially these days, who are kind of in between, right? Like they're in the gap. Maybe they're in a situation with their world of work that they're not completely happy with, or it could be their life. Maybe it's a relationship or a place that they're living. And I know that when we met, you spoke a lot about kind of taking that leap of faith. And
Mhm.
can you tell people a little bit more about maybe some of that experience of how you were able to kind of transition from like the traditional, what we think we're supposed to do, and kind of what you experienced, during that time of, realizing like, oh, wow, this isn't it. And there's this gap between where you are and where you want to go, and kind of the stuff that comes up and how you managed it.
Yeah. So funny thing is I'll start with, graduating with college. My undergraduate studies, like I said, was in exercise science. And even at the time then, there was a lot of, pressure around, well, what are you going to do with that degree when you graduate, you know? And it wasn't like a law school degree or a nursing degree or this or that. It was kind of, at the time, I graduated in 2015 from that program. So even then, there was kind of a stigma around like not doing like a traditional, you know, MBA, a business degree, or, you know, things that are practical. And so even at that point on, I started to feel those societal pressures. And so when I graduated, I kind of, you know, fell in that trap of like, oh, geez, what do I do now? And like, what do I actually like? And what career am I going to pursue now that I have this, you know, degree in exercise science? Like, who hires for that, first of all? So I started searching different avenues in the health and wellness field. And I was like, okay, like, where can this be applied? Where does this make sense? And for a while, I was just hopping from job to job, trying to figure out like my place in the working field. And so I had little gigs here and there, from like working at the Boys and Girls Club at first, trying to figure out the exercise side of things. And then I slowly started to realize that it wasn't even that I was interested in. It was definitely the nutrition. So I had that early on. Um, but again, it was like most of those nutrition places took places in a clinic or in a hospital setting. And so I was still jumping from job to job. And eventually it led me to my 2 years at a local hospital, where I was like, this is it. Like, this is the dream, you know? I landed that 9 to 5. I snagged it after all these years post graduation. Like, I'm here, this is awesome, there's all these opportunities, you know, to move up the ladder, and oh my god, there's senior leadership, and I have a role now. And so I started to identify myself with this role in an industry where I was still not happy. And so here I am sitting in my office with, you know, a year later, I had gotten the promotion to the job where I was like, this job as a wellness program coordinator is going to give me all the freedom and the creativity I've been looking for. I get all this paid time off. I get these awesome benefits. I get, you know, like, I get bonuses for my time and everything that I do. And then when I would get home, it was like, whoa, I feel so drained. I don't feel like I'm doing a service, not only to the people around me, but to myself. And why do I still feel so unfulfilled and so unhappy? And then I started to think about it more, and I started to listen to podcasts, and I started listening to different resources and other people who were kind of on that same path. And it really resonated with me. And I was like, that's me. I was like, that's me. I am doing everything that society tells you to do. And here I am, unhappy, where on paper it looks picture perfect. So why is that? Why do I feel so unhappy?
Mm. So thank you for sharing that. And I love how you like went for it. Like you knew, right? You were searching and you were willing to take all those other jobs. And I think that's important for listeners to remember, because again, that gap of where we are and where we want to go, I think sometimes we just want to get to where we think we want to go so quickly that we miss out on maybe some of the
Mm,
lessons and the experiences of being where we are. Even if, like I always say, you don't have to love where you are. It's okay to say, okay, I'm here.
right.
I will accept I'm here. And yet I know I
Mm,
want to go there. But then you even take it a step further. And I love this, how you're like, you got the job, like you did the work, you uncovered the stones. You were finally like
yeah.
nutrition, hospital, benefits, creativity, paid time off, all the things that we, a lot of us attach and associate. And then you're there and you're like, oh, wow, this isn't it. So can you tell us a little more about then, like from that, like then what? Like, were you like devastated? Was it scary for you? Like, how did you kind of, or how are you navigating that?
Yeah, I love those questions. And I absolutely love that you brought up, the path itself too, and recognizing like I had to take all these different stepping stones to get to where I am now. It's not just, it is a leap of faith essentially, but it's not a leap in a day, like it's years and years of recognizing and realizing, coming to the conclusion. Then you have to strategize, make a plan, and then execute it. So you can absolutely take the leap of faith and just be like, arms up, I'm done, I'm leaving. But it is kind of nice to have a little bit of a plan in there. So to go back to your question, Stephanie, definitely when I started to realize that, like I said, I started to listen and reach out to more resources, like, is this me? Am I feeling these same ways? What's the best plan of action next? Like, what am I going to do? And so, one of the reasons I was feeling so unhappy, I noticed, was because I just felt like I wasn't doing a service to anyone. I wasn't fulfilling people in a way that I felt like my dharma wanted me to. So, my purpose. And I realized that in the position that I was in, I was never going to be able to have that ability. So not only was I not able to help people in the way that I wanted to, but I wasn't able to help myself either. So it was really scary to be like, I've spent all this time searching. I've put my heart and soul into my work. I've dedicated myself. I've identified myself with, all these different jobs that I've had, this role that I'm in. And now it's kind of like you have to grieve. You have to grieve the loss of that identity, of that job, of who you are, and you have to be reborn and refind yourself.
Mm.
So, yeah, I had to pick everything in my life apart at that point and reevaluate things and just honestly like burn it. I had to burn everything that I knew and start anew.
Mm. Powerful. Thank you for that authentic sharing. I believe that there's a lot of people out there that are in your position or at some part of that journey, maybe kind of just starting out, or maybe they're getting closer to the it. And I feel like when you speak, I hear someone who is dedicated to personal development ongoing, which I think is important. And I want to recognize and also remind the listeners that, part of being successful in life is knowing when we need support. And people will tell me all the time, because I do coaching, and they're like, well, why should I hire a coach? I'm like, well, never should.
Yeah.
However, if you want to move through things quicker and have an objective perspective, right? That's why we hire, and that's why we, hire coaches and mentors, and that's why we listen to podcasts, because somebody has done it and somebody has made the mistake. So you kind of shorten the learning curve a little bit. They're still going to be learning. I like to think when you get those types of support, you actually deepen your learning. So you go deeper into the the belly of the whale, so to speak, but then you also rise higher because you have all these tools and these support systems around you. So I'm reflecting this back to you because it's so important for people that are listening to really get that. And it's not about, I think some people think, well, I don't have the time, or I don't have the money, or I don't know how, or there's so many different types of resources out there. Again, this podcast being one of them, where people can listen and be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm not crazy, right? Like just to be seen and heard. Like I think people listening to you are like, oh my gosh, that's totally how I feel. Because there's a lot of us, right, that would walk around feeling
Mhm.
guilty. Like, who am I to leave this job? Right. So have you had to kind of navigate with some of those more challenging emotions as well?
Oh, yeah, and the biggest one being, of course, the financial piece. Part of me chasing after every single job too was always that, this was something that my parents struggled with. I watched them struggle all the time with money and debt, with finances, and they could never get ahead of things. So I was always fearful of digging that hole myself. So I was always like, I got to get the job that pays more, like maybe I like this job, but there could be a better job that pays more and I need that promotion because I need that money. And currency is so much more than just money. Currency is what you make of it. Currency could be time spent with somebody else. Currency could be solitude with yourself, going for a walk in the woods. Currency is just another thing that we put value to, but it's where you want to put that value to that's up to you.
Mm,
So one of the really scary things that I had to overcome, in which this, like you said, is still a work in progress to this day. I definitely want to mention that, I am most certainly about personal development, and I hope to always grow and to always be learning more about myself and the world around me and how I interact with it. And it's not about having this luxurious life in the form of money or materialistic items. It's having a luxurious life that meets your needs and makes you feel good. And so this job wasn't making me feel good. And even more so, the money was not making me feel good. So
mm.
even though I had abundance in money, I realized that one of the ties that I have so deeply that I needed to break was this fear of, what if I don't have money? So I wanted to quit my job and be in a place where I was like, okay, what's next? Because you don't have the income anymore, Mackenzie. You don't have the money anymore. It's not there for you. So you need to just trust in the universe. Trust in the path, don't resist,
Mm.
and know that when you open up that connection, everything else will come flooding through. So, not only did I take the leap of faith because I was unhappy with my job, but I was unhappy with the relationship that I had with money as well.
Wow. Thank you for bringing that in because I think I think a lot of people, that's probably one of their biggest fears, right? It's a very root chakra kind of like our security. And
Mhm.
especially when we're used to having something coming in, even going from working for somebody to working for yourself, right? Like there's that whole thing like, okay, now I have to generate. And I don't want to get too far off topic because this is something that we could talk about probably for another hour. I want to kind of keep to the how do you follow your heart, but I think it's such a valuable thing that you're bringing up as it relates to our relationship with money, that I do want to talk just a little bit more about it, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Um, and really saying that, like, I don't know how you've experienced life, but I know that like in times in my life, whenever I have focused on the money, I never do well. Like,
Yes.
I don't like I worked in the corporate world after college. I had a great job. I traveled all over the world. I made great money. And when I took the leap to work for myself, I took a dramatic decrease in income initially. And it was, I like my comforts. Maybe I'm not luxurious, but I like to do what I like to do when I like to do it. So I remember the feeling, and then I got busy focusing on what I was excited about, what was like, like Joseph Campbell talks about following your bliss. And when you're really truly connected to the things that light you up, that's attractive. And that's like a magnet. And like you said, the doors will open and the universe will show you. And so yeah, so it's very real. And I think it's healthy to acknowledge the fact that it's okay to be afraid. And it's very normal and healthy to say, yes, I'm afraid about the money. And then we get to bring courage in and we get to say, okay, now what do I need to do? But I think so many people, and I've seen this in myself, get stuck around the money that we contract and we're not open and we're not receptive and we're not listening. Right. So we kind of miss it. So that's a valuable point. And then the other thing that I love that you said is, it's this is my words, not yours. I'm paraphrasing a little. Like luxury is like how you define it, right? Like, so for me, when I left the corporate world, I traded maybe some money initially, but I got time, and that's what I wanted. I wanted time with my family. I wanted time to like not have to travel so much and be gone for weeks and miss things. Um so yeah, that's currency. That's part of life, and knowing like how much is enough.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's where, again, it's where do you put your value? Do you value the money more? Do you value the time more? And yeah, some people could say, well, I don't want to have to make that choice, but it's an opportunity to make a choice every single day. Like you do have the power to choose. And sometimes we feel powerless to that choice
Yes.
because we feel like we're not able to make it.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you always have a choice. You
Yes, I
always
love that.
do. And
Yes.
so I made that choice because I was so unhappy. I made the choice and I said, you know what? I Who knows? I mean, I was very lucky because I have the support of my partner, of course, my
Mhm.
loving, dear boyfriend who
Mhm.
has
Mhm.
always encouraged me to chase after my dreams and really pushed me when I was on that tipping point. Um, so I have a lot to thank him for. But I mean, still to this day, a lot of people get on podcasts after and they're like, yeah, I took the leap of faith and now like I have this beaming business, but I am still struggling around that money piece too. And that's the reality of it. Like I got my time, I got the things that I love. I'm able to focus on my master's degree program now, and I'm able to focus on doing the things that make me happy. But, I am still struggling with the money piece. I'm not rich and super successful right now, but I know that it will just come in time when it's ready, when it's supposed to. There are other things that I need to work on before that arrives.
Yes, and you're building the foundation. And there are people that walk around that have plenty of money and feel poor because it's the never enough thing. So, right, so some of that could be even connected to what, like I've talked about in other, episodes, is like our limiting beliefs of, who am I to have time and money, right? Because that's really what it's about, is you can have both. It's not an or. I remember someone said that to me once. They're like, well, you can have time and money. And I think sometimes people think there's this kind of idea that if I become my own entrepreneur, or I own my own business, I'm going to work all the time, and I'm going to be exhausted, right? Like that's one of the things that I used to think. And then it's like, okay, no, you have a business and you get to decide how you delegate and if you're willing to give up control, right? So as you said, like if we're always committed to this journey of growth, there will always be opportunities when it seems like it's an obstacle. It's actually an opportunity for greater benefit, right? So I get to learn how to let go, and I get to learn how to put someone else in charge and say, okay, this feels like my baby, but if I want the freedom, right, that comes with being a business owner, you also have to be able to say someone else needs to run the show, and I got to be okay if there's a mistake. So the journey never really
Yeah.
ends, right? But we learn. And
No, never. It's always a work in progress, always.
yeah.
And that's what you should hope for, right? Is that you never want to stop learning. You never want to stop growing. You never want to stop
Mhm.
learning who you're meant to
Mhm.
become. So
Exactly.
it's amazing that you can take segments of your life and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. Like that happened because of this. And then I became this person. And then wait, then this happened and I evolved even more over time. So it's that beautiful evolution. And so quitting the job wasn't the end of that story. It was the beginning of a new one.
Yes. And very brave of you. I love it. And again, just to reflect back, like the fact that you said, it's like you were unhappy. Like, so some of us have to get to the point of enough in order to take the leap, right? Some of us really have to be in that place of like, I can't do this another day. And sometimes that's the energy we need to have the courage to be like, I'm so done, I'm so ready,
Yeah.
um so I hope people that are listening know that they're not alone, that there are people that have done it, who are doing it, and that this can be kind of a network of support as well, and reassurance
Mhm.
that you will land on your feet, and you will learn for sure. So as we close, I'm wondering, Makenzie, if there's, any one thing that would be something that you feel would be helpful to share with the listeners, maybe something that you learned about yourself in this process, or something you kind of want to leave people with, to kind of anchor the conversation.
Yeah, so definitely 2 things come to mind, Stephanie, when you say that.
Okay.
Right off the bat is if, the listeners that are out there, if you're, like, on the fence and you're like, "Oh, this kinda sounds I'm not really sure," and you're questioning the job that you're in, that's it right there. Like, that feeling right there is you knowing something doesn't feel right. That's your intuition, that is your gut telling you, "Baby, you gotta do something about this." Like, "This isn't working out for you." And if it doesn't feel right now, it's not gonna feel right tomorrow, and it's probably not gonna feel right next year. So, start making that plan. Start looking for resources and do what feels best to you.
Hmm.
And then the second thing I wanted to say is this is really, really, when I started delving into all those different podcasts and resources, the thing that spoke out most to me and was what made me take that final leap of faith and put my 2 weeks notice in was I was listening to a podcast with the guest speaker was Jay Shetty, and he has a book out right now called How to Think Like a Monk. And he said, and don't quote me, it's not word for word, but he said something along the lines of when we're told no, or when we're faced with some sort of rejection, oftentimes we associate that with a negative feeling. Like, no, I can't have that. No, not today. No, not the time. We have this negative connotation associated with it, but in reality, that no or that rejection is actually just the universe's way of redirecting you to your path. So when I was contemplating if I should leave my job or not, I knew going into grad school that it was going to be a whole workload. I was still scared of the money portion. So I went to my boss and I said, "Hey, I would really like to stay here, but I know that my coursework is going to be a lot for me. Is there any way for me to drop down to 24 hours per week?" And so she said, "Let me think about it." And a couple days went by and she came back and she said no. She said, "No, this position needs to stay full time. You can't do 24 hours." And at first I was super bummed. And I was like, "Wow, what am I going to do?" But really I knew the answer. The universe was giving me the answer. The answer was walk away, girlfriend. Here is your answer. This no is redirecting you to the path that you keep falling off of. So we're going to bring it right back to you. So
Mm.
just remember that every rejection in life does not mean that it's negative. Just remember it's taking you back to the path that you're supposed to be on.
Mm. Profound. I'm not going to say anything else. We're going to leave it at that. So if people want to reach out to you, I'm not sure where you are in your nutrition journey, if you're kind of open for business, and if there's like a way you want people to connect with you, whether they have questions about what you shared or questions about nutrition. Is there a way that they can reach you either on social or an email or some form?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I'm taking a bit of a hiatus from social media right now, doing a 30-day detox. So if you're interested in that, I promise you it will enlighten you.
Yes.
But you can find me on social media. I do have an Instagram account that you can follow on. I would love to see your lovely faces. And you can email me as well. I'll give both of those pieces of information to Stephanie so you can contact me there. And I am open for business with clients as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I know we weren't hiking in the woods having this conversation, but it was just as amazing. And I appreciate it. And I wish you all of the best. And I know you're going to rock it out. And I look forward to watching you shine and, doing what's probably most important is then helping other people. Right. Because you have a lot to offer now and you will continue to. So thank you, Makenzie. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Okay. Bye bye.